Introvert, The Quiet Power in a World of Noise. Written by Rita Chester. Narrated by Kelly McGee. Introduction. Go and enjoy yourself. So you stayed inside your room the whole day and binge-watched your favorite TV series while eating pizza and ice cream. If your idea of having fun is lying on your bed in pajamas while reading your favorite novel or watching movies, chances are you are an introvert. If you are that guy in the club who stands in the corner while everyone else is dancing to the DJ beat, or if you're totally fine with staying at home the whole day whenever your 2 or 3 friends are not available, you might possess the personality called introversion. But just because you don't binge-watch TV series the whole day in your pajamas doesn't mean you are not an introvert. Neither dancing along with the crowd nor being bored at home guarantees non-introversion. In fact, some of those guys you see often in parties and nightclubs can be introverts. That guy who's good at public speaking, or those kids who perform at parks might actually be introverts as well. Confused yet? Have you ever identified yourself as an introvert, but you have that intense passion to perform in public? Have you ever been so sure about being an introvert until you felt the tendencies to feel unease with a huge crowd? Or have you ever gotten tired of analyzing your personality, so you thought you could just consider yourself somewhere in between, perhaps an ambivert? The truth is, personality is not something you can tell just by thinking of one characteristic or two. Personalities are more complicated to analyze than you think. It is not a matter of being shy or being confident, nor is it a choice between being amiable and being unfriendly. Your capacity as a person to collect a range of varied characteristics often starts the confusion about which type of personality you fall into. If you are at that point in life where you start questioning what personality you possess, or you find it hard to understand yourself, you should strive for a deeper understanding of the different personality types. Learning is the key to understanding yourself. If you feel like you have high chances of being an introvert, but you're not sure about it, or worse, you don't want to be one because you think it is hard to be an introvert in a world dominated by extroverts, you should dive deeper into this book. Learn more about yourself through the chapters. Embrace your personality by fully understanding it, and get ready to discover all the potentials in you. On to Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Introversion and the Signs. Introversion, as identified by a number of psychological theories about personality, is one of the 2 general categories into which a certain person's personality may fall. A Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst named Carl Gustav Jung developed a particular theory that highlights introversion and extroversion as one of the major categories when it comes to identifying personalities. Jung's theory of psychological types assumes that attitudes dictate someone's personality type. Under such theory, attitude refers to either the inward or outward direction of one's interest. If a person's conscious interest flows inward, he is said to be an introvert. Introverts are generally quiet as they are reserved and naturally private. They enjoy the idea of being alone and having time for themselves. Hence, they tend to be more self-aware than extroverts do. And since they are inward-looking, they make themselves more available in observing their own thoughts and emotions. They love discovering things about themselves, and they are more open to internal realizations. They are also considered talented individuals, which is not a surprise, for they are known to have a vast imagination. If extroverts gain their energy during social interactions, introverts lose theirs. They have tendencies to get their energies drained when they are surrounded by a lot of people for too long. This is the main reason why introverts need to recharge, and that is done by spending time alone and reflecting on one's actions. When extroverts express themselves out loud, introverts listen to them. They are natural-born observers, which is also why they have a deep understanding of their external environment. They tend to be more subjective, while extroverts tend to be more objective. Introverts focus on how the world can impact them, while extroverts think more about how they can have an impact on the world. Signs that you are an introvert. If you ever identify yourself to most of the characteristics mentioned here, there is a high possibility that you actually are an introvert. Although it is not really safe to just assume that you are an introvert based on some characteristics, there are definite ways to tell if you are one. You enjoy being alone. Walking alone around a park, watching movies in your room, chilling alone at home, reading your favorite books while in pajamas. If even just the thought of these things make you feel happy, you must be an introvert. Your comfort zone is being with yourself. People would often call you a loner for this trait. You are as free as your thoughts when you are alone, because you can do anything you basically want. Besides, aloneness helps free you of distractions and energy-draining people. It's the best time to boost your imagination, recollect your observations, and organize your thoughts. You might not be able to explain that feeling of safety and comfort you get when you're alone, but you know it for yourself that there is something about solitude that makes you want it more often than not. Prolonged interaction with people makes you feel drained. Have you ever attended a crowded party, and in the middle of it, you suddenly get the urge to go home because you felt like you've already done too much talking to the random people in there? If you have, then you are definitely an introvert. You find being surrounded by a bunch of people tiring. Your energy is drained during prolonged social interactions. As a result, your own mind demands a recharge. And for an introvert, what this means is spending time by themselves. You hate small talk. Small talk are a waste of time to you if you are an introvert. Of course, there are instances where you have to entertain them, but small talk in general tends to be boring for you. This is because you are a deep person with a deep personality, often holding the deepest thoughts. You are not meant for regular conversation, especially not the type to like gossip. You are more interested in the earth and its mysteries. Things like the possible existence of aliens, religion, politics, news and events, anything that enriches your mind and gets your thoughts going. Despite this, do remember that you lose your energy when socializing, so choose who to interact with is something you should be mindful of. You have a small circle of friends. One way to identify your personality is to look at the number of friends you have. If you can count all of them on one hand, you probably are an introvert. You tend to be picky when it comes to people whom you call friends. Thus, you only have a small circle of them. This isn't because you're antisocial. Instead, the reason for it is because you tend to be choosier with the company you keep. They need to understand your personal need for solitude first and foremost. They also shouldn't be the type to drain you of energy. Keep in mind that there are people who can be energy vampires, and in most cases, they cannot help it. What you can do instead is to limit your interaction with them. You are independent. You prefer working alone because you want to keep everything under your absolute control. It does not matter if you work faster or slower than other people. You love working at your own pace. Solitude is not just a means of emotional recharge to you, but it is also a way to provide yourself with mental satisfaction. You are certainly at peace when you do tasks alone. There are no contradicting ideas, thus no confusion is created either. You are confident that all parts of the job are done with the same level of competence. It doesn't mean that you don't need people, though. It simply means that you don't find it necessary to ask for help all the time. most especially when you believe you can do things by yourself. You are quite aware of yourself. You know your flaws very well. You know your weaknesses. You also know your strengths. If you have spent a lot of time discovering yourself and everything that makes you, then you might consider yourself a certified introvert. Self-awareness is your shield against any disappointments that might come your way. You analyze situations based on your knowledge about yourself. You know your limits and your capabilities. You also know when to hold back and when to push yourself to the limit. Having this kind of awareness can save a lot of energy on your part. It takes the guessing game out of what actions you should take next, because you will always choose the one that plays to what you know you're capable of. You are reserved. Being a reserved person, you will often find it hard to confess your thoughts and feelings to anybody, to the extent that other people often mistake you for being passive and apathetic. You don't get to react as obviously as extroverts do whenever something emotional pops up. Your silence makes you look like you are not interested in talking to people, but the truth is you are. However, you are only capable of fully expressing your emotions and thoughts to people you are comfortable with, the ones you trust and consider to be close to you. You are also a vault of your own secrets, and nobody knows the code to it. You're not comfortable with sharing your secrets to people, especially to the public. This isn't easy for you to do at all, despite being coaxed to. In fact, you might even get very uncomfortable about it. You feel like you are giving a portion of yourself to people every time you share something about yourself. Revealing your secrets is like undressing yourself in public, so you'd probably rather wither away than tell them. This kind of vulnerability can't be expected from introverts. You appreciate privacy. Personal space is a big deal to you. You get conscious whenever you feel like your privacy is getting invaded. You are a private person, which is why you tend to settle for less friends. You never like it when people call too much attention to you. You don't feel the need for an audience to witness almost everything that you do. You are a keen observer. The moments when extroverts use their mouths to talk are the moments when you would use all the other senses to observe. You have a serious curiosity towards existence. You sense that every detail in your surrounding has something to do with you and your life. You may not be speaking openly about them, but you know things more than what most people think you do. You sense true emotions and honest feelings. This is because you also tend to be more sensitive than others. You are a good listener. Being observant is actually linked to the ability to feel people's sincerity. Your deep understanding of the environment you move in makes it easy for you to listen to other people. Listening to you is not only about being present and ready to hear a person's story or confession. It is also about understanding the person's point and purpose. You do not listen to reply. You listen to understand. You don't just hear their words, but you feel their emotions as well. You are able to put yourself in the speaker's shoes to better relate to their feelings. Your honest way of listening also enables you to detect lies and dishonesty. You consider it either a gift or a curse or both. You have a deep appreciation of other living things. You find eye contact with people awkward, but you don't hesitate saying hi to animals whenever you pass them by. You consider nature as your friend. You appreciate life by feeling the connection of your existence to other living things. You love going on nature trips, mountain hikes, underwater adventures, and interacting with animals. You are naturally attached to nature, and that is why you possess a deeper understanding of your surroundings. This innate sense of connection with nature lies at the essence of your strengths and your ability to be alone in the first place without feeling lonely. And that is a talent not all people possess, so consider it something beneficial. Some people don't get it. They think introverts are these shy, awkward, unsuccessful people that don't achieve anything in life and don't know how to interact with others. This is far from true, and in the next chapter I will expand on that. Chapter 2: Misconceptions about Introverts. Introverts go through a never-ending process of being misinterpreted and labeled as something they are not. Stereotyping introverts is so common these days that introverts themselves do not even bother correcting each and every misconception they hear. In this chapter, every false idea about introverts will be corrected and explained. Your understanding about introversion will be further elaborated on as we debunk any myths about introverts. Sometimes the best way to learn what is right is to get to know what is wrong. Introverts are shy. This is definitely the biggest myth about introverts. People think introversion and shyness are synonymous. Being shy is caused by a lot of factors. Although there are instances where introversion causes a child to grow up timid, it does not necessarily mean that all introverts are bound to grow up in the same way. If a child is born an introvert, they would often find thinking about and imagining things more interesting than talking to other children. But because other children do not see things the same way, they would regard him as odd. However, the child does not lose his confidence that way. He loses it when he finds his form of expression being suppressed by external factors such as bullying, belittling, and shaming. Your personality alone does not dictate the level of your openness to other people. Extroverts are not born confident. Confidence comes mostly as a matter of personal experience. Introverts are antisocial. Just because you don't talk as much as other people do, this doesn't mean that you are antisocial. Being antisocial is more than just not wanting human interaction. It is characterized by violence, irresponsibility, and an absolute lack of concern towards society and other people. People who are antisocial have tendencies to detach completely from normal and proper human behavior. They blame others for their distress. They lack empathy towards others' misery. Introverts, in contrast, are very sensitive to others' feelings. They are concerned with the society's welfare. Introverts also tend to be passionate in understanding other people, as they don't own the same qualities others have, particularly the traits extroverts possess. They do not hate talking to other people, although they tend to moderate their interaction by reducing unnecessary talk. But it is only because they lose energy upon excessive interaction, and not because they carry hate towards people. Unlike antisocial people, introverts often play a positive role in society. They balance the extra lively energy of extroverts and help calm the atmosphere. Introversion and being antisocial are completely different things. In fact, they are almost two opposite things. Another great way to see the difference between the two is that introverts make an extra effort to be more involved in society, while antisocial people despise any form of involvement. Introversion is a form of social anxiety. Introversion is a personality and not some sort of mental illness. Anxiety is characterized by fear and uneasiness towards a particular subject or situation. Silence, on the other hand, just means an introvert might be thinking at the moment, or he simply does not feel the need to talk. Introverts do not get anxious about speaking. In fact, their silence is the exact opposite of anxiety. They need to process their thoughts very well, so they tend to be calm even in a public setting, as it helps them a lot. And although there are some introverts who get easily anxious when it comes to social interaction, introversion in itself is not a form of anxiety. Being alone is sad. Another pointless accusation with regard to introversion is that if you are a loner, you are sad. A good majority of people do not get how happy introverts become when they find time to be alone for a while. Unlike other people, introverts do not overdramatize aloneness. They are used to it. Solitude energizes introverts just as much as parties do to extroverts. It is their way of refreshing their minds and relaxing for a little. This is enough reason for them to choose being alone instead of going out and spending time with a group of people. Nobody else can dictate what makes you happy aside from yourself. True happiness comes from within. You find it in yourself and not in your friends. Introverts are unemotional. Apathetic individuals are the worst labels to give people who are introverted. Introverts are functioning human beings too, and they tend to care more than others. They also feel what other people normally feel. The only difference is that they do not react excessively when things happen, or they just choose to not react at all. This absence of a reaction does not automatically imply insensitivity. Introverts, in contrast, are more sensitive about their surroundings. They feel sincerity, honesty, and other emotions which are not easily felt by other individuals. Introverts hate talking to people. It is true that introverts love listening, but it does not make them hate talking. It's like considering a person's love for meat as enough to conclude that the same person hates vegetables. Two things can be related without being opposite. You've learned from the first chapter that introverts are known for being really great listeners. That is exactly the reason why they tend to talk less. You cannot talk while listening or listen without talking. There are days when an introvert just chooses to stay silent when not talked to, and that is completely normal. Introverts also tend to filter what they say, often taking their time with choosing the proper words to use, making things slower for them. They do not fake it. They just try to express kinder words and make honest expressions hurt less. They believe the world is harsh enough without people offending each other. They hate small talk, yes, but talking to people in general, no. In fact, they could talk all day long to a single person about topics which capture both their interests. The way their thoughts are processed into words depends on the kind and amount of audience they have to deal with. The lesser the people to talk to, the more open an introvert becomes. An introvert is not a team player. Wrong. An introvert can play well solo or in teams. You should know by now that an introvert's independence allows them to do work alone and manage things under their own control. That is exactly the same reason why they can also work great in a team. Being able to manage a task alone means they are able to understand each and every part of it. Knowing how each part of a certain task functions makes an introvert an asset. They can delegate tasks properly and proceed with the work with an actual plan. Being aware of your role and purpose is the bottom line of being a team player. It has nothing to do with your personality. Introverts have a better analysis of how things work together as a whole. They level the quality of their performance to the quality that makes the other members of the team produce. They adjust to changes accordingly and make their decisions based on what they perceive as best for the team. Public is not an environment for introverts. If being in public is not a place for introverts, they would all have to quit school or their job, where they interact with at least 20 other people every day. Being in public is a place for everyone, and this means all personality types, including introverts. There are public speakers who are actually introverts. A lot of performers you see in theaters, concerts, and talent shows can be introverts. The best actors you admire on cam might be introverts as well. The thing is, introverts have always had something to showcase in public, but not all of them choose to present themselves there. Being in public is your own choice, not your personality. Introverts are not fun to be with. People have different definitions of what it means to have fun. Some people have fun by attending parties and celebrations. Others have fun by playing games or sports. And introverts? Well, introverts have fun by being alone. An introvert actually considers themselves great company. Being alone is being free, and being free is basically being happy. But that is not the only way introverts have fun. They also have fun by being at parties, dancing with friends, playing different games, and winning prizes, attending concerts and music festivals, swimming at the beach, stargazing, and basically any other thing that an average person would consider fun. Yes, they can do all of that. Introverts are actually happy people. They may not appear to be happy at first, but once you get to know them, they can actually be the funniest and most inspiring people you will ever meet. It is very much like meeting someone with a secret, except the secret is actually their personality. Chapter 3. Types of Introverts. We've already established the complexity of the introvert personality in the previous chapters. You might be wondering by now why some of the basic signs of being an introvert apply to you while some do not. Does that mean you are not an introvert? Or perhaps you are a semi-introvert? Or maybe you're just someone who has a tendency to change from being an introvert to an extrovert? Worry not, because the truth is, being an introvert is too complex to just label someone as being one. You do not have to possess all the characteristics associated with introversion to be a complete introvert. According to Jonathan Cheek, professor of personality psychology, introverts can be further categorized into 4 types: social introverts, thinking introverts, anxious introverts, and restrained introverts. They can easily be remembered by using the acronym STAR. If you have a strong feeling that you are an introvert, but you are somehow holding back because you do not possess all the characteristics, here are the different types of introverts explained. Try to identify which one you belong to by honestly answering the corresponding questions after each type. Social introverts. Social introversion covers a majority of the common traits people normally identify with introverts. It is the preference for a smaller social group than a large one. Social introverts identify few people as their close friends and tend to only socialize with them. It does not have to be a group, though. Social introverts are also fine with enjoying the company of 2 people, or the company of one best friend, or having no company at all. Do you prefer celebrating occasions with a few friends rather than a bunch of people? Do you have a close relationship with your friends? Do you see being around other people not necessary most of the time? Do you prefer doing things alone? Do you not say much about yourself? Do you feel drained during social celebrations, despite the fact that you enjoyed yourself? If you answered yes to all these questions, You are definitely a social introvert. Thinking introverts. Social events are not a problem to thinking introverts. Although they still possess dominant qualities introverts are known to have. They are introspective, self-reflective, insightful, and imaginative. These introverts have great control over their thinking. Professor Cheek even said they are capable of creating a fantasy world in their mind through their imagination. Questions to ask yourself. Do you regularly assess your thoughts and ideas about yourself? Do you imagine yourself being in the same situation as the character whenever you watch movies or read books? Do you always pay attention to what you feel? Do you value your own evaluation about yourself? Do you sometimes daydream and fantasize about your future? If you answered yes to all these questions, you are a certified thinking introvert. Anxious introverts. Unlike other introverts who seek solitude to recharge, anxious introverts seek it to escape social situations. They easily feel awkward at social interactions and are not quite confident about themselves. They are the type of introverts who get anxious about several things. They have tendencies to remember all the awkwardness and embarrassing moments that happen throughout the day before sleeping. Although being alone does not make the anxiety fade away, it helps these introverts cope with their current situation and analyze the positive things they can do next. It also recharges their energy just like it does to other introverts. Questions to ask yourself. Do you often feel like everyone is looking at you? Do you often think about the bad memories of your past? Do you get ashamed or angry about defeat? Do you still feel alone even when you are in a group of friends? Do you find it hard to overcome your shyness in new situations? If you answered yes to all these questions, most probably you are an anxious introvert. Restrained introverts. This type of introversion is the perfect example of what a reserved person is. They tend to be silent most of the time, and they always process their thoughts before speaking or taking action. Another thing that distinguishes restrained introverts from other types of introverts is their slow pace. They do not engage in activities as soon as they wake up. They usually think about things and assess probable consequences before they perform an action. A restrained introvert tends to start their day a little late and is generally not a morning person. Questions to ask yourself. Do you find it hard to be off and running as soon as you wake up in the morning? Do you take things slow and easy in order for you to relax? Do you process your thoughts slowly before speaking? Do you often feel the need to scrutinize the situation first before taking any action? Do you often feel sluggish? If you answered yes to all these questions, then consider yourself as a restrained introvert. Chapter 4. Disadvantages of being an introvert. At this moment, you have already been able to identify what type of introvert you are. And if you have, the next thing you need to know is that there are two sides to every coin. From identifying your personality, it is only proper to continue your understanding by introducing the disadvantages of being an introvert too. Identify which among these weaknesses apply to you and analyze them as early as now. That way, you can develop your own solutions on how to turn these things into strength. Overly self-centered. Having a full understanding of yourself is actually great. Not every person has that, but spending all your time understanding only yourself and no one else can be dangerous. As an introvert, you have a tendency to become overly self-absorbed. Being confident about yourself and your knowledge, You tend to act based solely on your own interpretation of things. You consider your thoughts as always right because your mind is capable of thoroughly processing each of them. You firmly believe that you are a competent individual, which is actually a healthy way of seeing yourself. However, you tend to hold on to that idea too much. You think you know things well, and you can understand your environment more than anybody else can. Once you see incompetence among others, you tend to completely disregard their opinion and make your choices based absolutely on your own judgment. Yes, you are an introvert. You can grow and learn things alone. But along the process of growing, you tend to lose your vision on how important it is for you to see other people grow as well. You don't get inspired anymore. You see yourself as the best among the rest. And with that, you might miss the true meaning of success in life, being happy. Missing opportunities. Sometimes your way of playing safe in games does not do anything good for you. Admit it. It takes you 3 what-ifs, 5 should-haves, 2 thoughts of failure, 7 pictures of possible scenarios, 1 panic attack, 23 consecutive heartbeats, and a wish upon a falling star before taking any action. Whether this is an exaggeration or not, the point is, you are too afraid to take risks. One thing all types of introverts have in common is that they do not rush things. It is like a means of survival for them. Taking things slowly but surely is nice and all until you find yourself losing all the opportunities because others are already stealing them from you. You know your talents, potential, and capabilities very well, but all of these things come to nothing if you are not willing to take the risk of showcasing them. Some people are not sure of themselves, but they have the courage to try new things. They usually end up happy, either because they made it or because they learned from it. Do not be afraid to try. Trapped in imagination. Do you fantasize about getting married to your ultimate crush? Or daydream in class when you find the subject boring? What about imagining yourself in situations which are almost impossible to happen before you sleep? If you do, it is time for you to assess just how much time you spend doing such and start checking on your real-life situation more often. Given your wisdom and creativity as an introvert, you are most likely to be comfortable with your own thoughts. This trait is mostly found in thinking introverts. You don't just use your brain to answer questions in exams. You use it to create moments in your mind as well. Moderate daydreaming is normal for any person. It is a temporary escape from reality, especially from the not-so-favorable one. But the idea of escaping reality may go beyond just a normal temporary thing for you. Your unexpressed ideas can create a vault of memories which never happened to you in real life. You may lose grip on reality and be trapped into your own imagination. Remember, your mind may be powerful, but you are definitely more powerful than it. Put it under your control and be careful on how you use your thoughts. You certainly do not want your introversion to evolve into a form of mental illness. Overthinking. If there was ever a competition for overthinking, the top 50 contestants would have all been introverts. Introverts are the best at overthinking. No wonder they are labeled as the most imaginative individuals around. This is because they can imagine even the most unlikely things happening. There is a healthy amount of being open to thoughts of different possibilities, but some introverts tend to overdo it. You always have time to think because you always provide time for yourself to be alone. The only problem is that there are times when you find your thoughts uncontrollable, and it is hard for you to ignore them. You spend some of your nights bombarding yourself with what-ifs and should-haves. You sometimes overanalyze things, which makes tasks complicated even when they are not. Most of the introverts experience the same thing, and most of them have also learned to overcome it through time. If you are having an unreasonable amount of sleepless nights, or you experience getting abnormally anxious for no apparent reason, you should consider consulting a psychologist or psychiatrist. There are some people, commonly adults, who are prone to this. It is not a matter of being an introvert or extrovert anymore. It is a health issue that can be properly addressed with the help of professionals. Fear of being misunderstood. In a normal day scenario, introverts are often interpreted by people who are not introverts themselves. As a result, their actions are not well understood, or worse, not understood at all. To cope with this, many introverts simply isolate themselves from the majority of people who cannot relate to them. They find it easier than actually explaining themselves to people. If you fall under the anxious or restrained introvert category, you probably feel the unexplainable fear of being misunderstood by society. You cannot easily open up even to people who are close to you. You fear that your thoughts and beliefs might not be socially acceptable, or your stand on certain issues may trigger hate towards you. Help yourself by talking to the closest people you have. You don't need to be understood by a lot of people. Just the people who are important to you is enough. If you want to overcome your fears, it will be best if you start with this one. Not social enough. What is enough in being social anyway? Is it a minimum of 2 human interactions a day? Or a rule that an introvert should have at least 4 friends? Actually, it could mean a lot of things to other people. But to introverts, enough is when they start feeling drained after interacting with people. If you are a social introvert, you spend most of your social interactions with those closest to you. This is normal. If you are a thinking introvert, interacting with 7 people at parties is normal. If you are either an anxious or restrained introvert, you still talk to at least 1 person a day, and that is normal. The idea here is that being social for an introvert does not depend on the number of people they interact with. It focuses more on the amount of time they spend with them. You are not supposed to spend the whole week without even talking to 1 person, unless you are in seclusion, which you are probably not. Not being socially active enough is only disadvantageous because people might misinterpret it, and it is not deemed normal, especially when the majority of people around you are used to interacting with each other almost all the time. When you are in a workplace, people expect your expressive cooperation. So for this case, it is best to try and learn how to become more communicative. Creating a wall that isolates you from people. All the disadvantages mentioned above, when combined, result to the creation of an invisible wall that can eventually isolate you from people. This is a wall that makes it difficult for you to connect to society. Do not, however, blame society for it, because the truth is, you subconsciously created that wall yourself. You tend to use your harsh experiences in the past to build a stronger version of yourself. You do not express things as much, which makes it a little harder for you to let go of emotions. You get disappointed when people do not understand you in the same way you understand them. You sometimes tend to be insecure when others are chosen because they are more active than you. So instead of you nourishing your sensitivity as a talent to reach out to others, you bury it because you believe it hinders your success. It would be disappointing to think that your positive traits end up being the same thing responsible for the creation of that wall. However, look at it as the solution to it as well. If you are the one who built it, it just means you're the only one who can destroy it. All introverts have invisible walls to destroy. Those walls, however, vary in strength and in difficulty when it comes to destroying them. Take things 1 brick at a time. Chapter 5. Dealing with Introversion. You have learned from the disadvantages of being an introvert, but don't let that discourage you. In fact, see it as a means for you to better yourself. Now that you know what your weaknesses are, you can start turning these things into strengths. It may sound cliché, but you do have power over them. You can change things if you have the will and discipline to do it. Dealing with your flaws also means overcoming yourself. It requires a lot of motivation and effort to do. The idea is to improve the old you without losing yourself in the process. Even the thought of it can be exhausting, but it will surely be worth it. Invest your efforts into these methods of improving yourself, and one day, you will be able to do the things you thought you couldn't. Accept introversion and all of its downsides. First things first, do you accept introversion as your personality? If yes, do you accept all the disadvantages that come with being one? Before you continue, try answering both questions with yes. Repeat it to yourself until you finally believe that you are fully accepting yourself. It's easy to say yes, but to really believe it and love yourself for your weaknesses isn't always as simple. You will need to learn how to accept yourself sooner or later. But accepting yourself because you want to makes a lot more difference than simply accepting things because you know you don't have any other choice. Your mentality towards introversion is important because it affects everything. There is no such thing as a better personality type. Thinking of how things would have been easier if you were more extroverted does not help. What helps is you accepting your own personality. Once you begin accepting your personality, you will realize that you are becoming more open to people's opinion of you. This, however, is not something you can do overnight. It will be a long but rewarding process. There is nothing more fulfilling than the feeling of being loved and accepted as a flawed individual. Accept yourself and everything else will follow suit. Be open to opportunities. How do you actually do this if you are that typical introvert who is afraid of taking risks? One word: courage. If someone tells you that doing something takes a lot of courage, then collect as much courage as you can in order to achieve it. Placing a healthy amount of pressure on yourself is the best way to instantly acquire enough courage to do something. But if you are not the kind of introvert who works well under pressure, then learn the best ways of motivating yourself. You are good at assessing yourself, so why not use it to discover all the things that motivate you? If you cannot push yourself by your inner drive alone, try seeking out for external stimuli. Find an inspiration. Relationships always require a certain amount of social interaction and opening up to others. It can be scary to make yourself vulnerable and expose your thoughts, your feelings, your fears, or other things to another person you don't fully trust. But that too is a risk worth taking, depending on the person you're with, of course. And since I have been married for several years myself, and my partner being more of an extrovert, I know that the ups and downs of such a relationship are worth the effort. If you want to be a performer in a theater, but you're afraid of auditioning, take a moment and imagine many of today's most acclaimed performers. How did they become so great? Were they born good at acting? No. They began with the basics. They too went through auditions. Some even went through years of acting school just to achieve the status they have today. Remember that everything takes work. You cannot expand your singing vocals if you are too shy to show off your true range. Your dancing teachers wouldn't know how to assess your dancing level if you're too afraid to show what you can do. Do not be afraid of making mistakes, because you will make plenty of these if you truly want to become better and grow. Don't overthink things. Turn your if only into at least. Do not tell yourself, if only I have studied more, I would have had a perfect score on that exam. Instead say, at least I passed the exam without studying much. I'll try studying more next time. Again, everything begins with your mentality. Look at the brighter side of things, even when the situation you are in right now isn't as favorable. It might not change the past, but it will help you cope with the future better. Overthinking, as you have learned in the preceding chapter, happens when an introvert is unable to control their thoughts. One of the most basic ways of stopping this is to not force your mind to add more negativity to the situation. This is particularly tricky and might even result in miserable flashbacks. Instead, relax and think of how those bad memories actually helped in shaping who you are now. If you cannot control what fills your thoughts, try controlling how you see these things instead. Turn a negative into a positive. Nurture the ways by which you express yourself. If you are not used to speaking as a way of expressing yourself, good news is you do have other options for it. Introverts tend to be creative when it comes to expressing themselves. The only downside of this is that people are not always very receptive to these, often thinking of it as strange and ending misunderstanding the thought behind it. Should this happen, worry not. The important thing here is that you are capable of expressing yourself in a way other than merely speaking. Many introverts find alternative outlets of expression. Some turn to writing, others would see music as a great opportunity for this. There are those who use physical activity, whether it be in the form of dance or simply walking by themselves. It doesn't matter how simple or complex the activity is. Remember that the idea here is to let go of any emotions, especially bad ones, that are lingering inside you. The more you keep these things inside, the worse you'll feel. So, find a way to let them go. Allow yourself to be alone sometimes. You might get confused along the process of improving yourself and become convinced that you are somehow becoming an extrovert. However, do understand that this is not the case. First, you cannot just change into being an extrovert, even though you feel as if you are acting more like one. You will learn more about this in Chapter 7. Second, keep in mind that your introversion is not a sickness to cure. Third, you are improving your introversion, not changing it. The reason you need to deal with the disadvantages that introversion entails is because you have a potential in you that needs to be discovered. And the only way to discover it is to surpass your own weakness. But if you start feeling exhaustion during any part of this process, give yourself time to be alone. Allow yourself to postpone things. Never prioritize progress when it comes to this, as it's not worth becoming drained of energy and even happiness in some cases. If something doesn't feel right, pause and rethink. Do not overdo things. When it comes to the things you want to change, believe that you'll achieve all these at some point. There's no rush to it. Being alone can be liberating, even if it's only for a short time. This way, you can clear your thoughts, talk to yourself, or observe a silent area to align your worries, concerns, and creative ideas and passions. Be more social. You may think of this as contradictory to the idea of allowing yourself to be alone for some time. However, it is not. Being alone is your way of recharging yourself as an introvert. But being social helps feed your mind. It widens your perspective, and you certainly need it from time to time. Remember that whilst you have to improve your old self, you can do this without losing your personality in the process. In some cases, if an introvert lacks social interaction, This could be attributed to laziness on their part. Maybe they simply aren't in the mood to go out. That being said, try saying yes to your friends more often. Choose the right people to hang out with so you can avoid becoming too exhausted. Consider this. A lot of introverts who were once a lot more timid have managed to become more socially inclined. Sure, they still have the basic traits of introversion, but at the same time, they've also overcome any issues they might have when it comes to social interaction. This, of course, doesn't always come easy. It takes a lot to overcome something, especially if it causes them greater fear. Given enough time, however, these introverts have mastered the subtle art of being more open to society without allowing the best things about their introversion to fade away. This small change can actually be confusing for some, but believe that just because you're a bit more social, it doesn't mean you've turned into an extrovert. There's a lot more that separates these two things. It isn't just a matter of becoming more social or outgoing. Chapter 6. Becoming more social. According to the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle, humans are social animals. Taking that into account, introverts do not necessarily need to learn how to be social because they are already social themselves. However, they tend to socialize less than extroverts do. Since society demands human interaction to keep moving forward, it is substantially dominated by extroverts. Frustrating? No. Instead, take this as a challenge. How do you keep pace with the dominant extrovert crowd without losing touch with your core personality? Here are a few methods you may want to try out. Talk to yourself. This may sound ironic to you, but this is based on fact. Most techniques would tell you things like talk to other people or to try speaking in front of the public. But bear in mind that how you sound yourself is more or less the same as you sound to other people. Talking to yourself is a sign that you have a healthy mind. But of course, this is particularly true only to a certain extent. Think of it as practice. Consider yourself as both the speaker and audience. Think of a certain topic and talk to yourself about the different ideas and opinions about it. Do this out loud. This is best done when facing a mirror. Just talk naturally and listen to your voice, the way you intonate things. Get used to the comfort you are feeling whenever you talk to yourself, and try to bring that same feeling when you go out and socialize. Talking to yourself does not only enable you to practice your approach, it also helps boost up your confidence in case you belong to the anxious introvert type. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. Be spontaneous. Being too reserved also plays a huge role when it comes to your social skills. Your tendency to plan what to say before speaking is one of the main things that often hinder you from talking to people with ease. Think about it. If you converse slowly, often pausing for a period of time to think, the person you're with may start to become bored. This is no more than a natural reaction, right? In other cases, people might see this as insincerity or a sign of disinterest in your part. See, a lot of misconceptions can be brought on by the mere fact that you were simply trying to organize what you wanted to say. Remember, not everyone understands how the introvert works. Don't expect them to read your every action in a positive light. Sometimes planning can be very limiting. The point here is that you don't get to plan everything that will happen. Life will always find a way to bring you to where you need to be, and it will not regard even a bit of what you have planned. Try to apply this principle to the way you talk to people. Do not plan what to say. Let the words come out without being filtered beforehand. Be more confident in your words, and know that, should they be misunderstood, you will have an opportunity to explain yourself better. And what if you don't? Let your words stand as they are and let it all go. Talk to strangers. As a kid, you were often told that you're not supposed to talk to strangers. However, as an adult introvert, you will find that speaking to strangers can be a great platform to practice being more open. One thing that suppresses your openness to people is your fear that they might change their impression towards you. If you talk to strangers, you technically won't have to fear this consequence. Strangers would not have an initial idea of who you are. They know nothing about your religion, your preferences in life, your stand on political issues, or the things that might irk you. They are less likely to judge you or assume things about you. You might even consider them as the safest people to talk to. Note: while talking to strangers is encouraged, it is still important to maintain spatial awareness when doing so. Given that you are speaking to someone you've only just met, it is best to do this in an environment you consider safe. For example, talking to a stranger at a party or a seminar should be fine. In comparison, talking to someone at the bus stop or someone you've randomly chanced upon on the street isn't quite so. Always be mindful of these things. Chat. Social media just might be one of the greatest gifts of modern technology to introverted people. You do not necessarily have to meet people and exhaust yourself from a whole day of discussing projects, assignments, or plans. If you used social media before as an escape to reduce personal interaction with people, why not use it as an opportunity to talk to them more instead? This practice is great for social and anxious introverts. In chatting with people through the internet, you won't have to worry about making awkward expressions because you are not interacting with them face to face. But be wary about using this method. This is supposed to initiate friendly relationships and not become your ultimate medium of talking to people. Always try to meet your friends in real life too. This creates a stronger bond and helps you overcome boundaries with yourself as well. Expand your connection. Try to expand your connections. Try to at least be in a conversation with another person other than your close friends for a fair amount of time each day. Talk to them and use it as an opportunity to study their behavior. You are good at observing, so use it to your advantage. Apply your learning to help you adapt to situations where you might meet people with the same behavior or approach as the people you have met before. The more people you get to talk to, the more capable you become at adapting yourself to different personalities. Chapter 7. Strengths of an Introvert. The first side of the coin was presented in Chapter 4. The next one will be discussed here. Now that you know how to deal with your personality's weaknesses, the next thing you would want to act on is your boundless set of strengths. Introverts do have some ideas about what their talents and capabilities are, but they cannot yet create a whole picture with it. They cannot be certain in themselves of these potentials because they have little or no actual experience of putting it to the test. So, to help you with this, here are a few known strengths that most introverts would have. Independence. Independence is one of your innate characteristics, so do not take it for granted. Utilize it because not everyone is capable of doing things alone. With it, you are more confident, fearing less things, and ready to conquer whatever the future may bring. Remember that your life is mostly made up of your decisions. You are the captain of your own ship. You decide which path you walk, which way you go. Nobody can tell you what to do. You can be trusted with any job or task. In school, your teachers probably do not have to oversee you. You can discipline yourself. In the workplace, your boss would not have to regularly remind you of your deadlines. You are also less likely to be in conflict with your supervisors. Upper-level officers believe that you can produce quality output on time. Self-trust. One of the greatest things that independence can develop in people is self-trust. Self-trust is vital towards your ability to stay firm amid the rapid changes in your surroundings. With it, you are not susceptible to any malicious influence. People will find it hard to negatively influence you. Your solid stand on things is not easy to destroy. You believe that you are accountable for everything that happens to your life. You are able to learn from your own shortcomings and believe that you can stand up every time you fall down. Leadership. When you combine independence and self-trust, you have some of the most essential qualities that a good leader must have. At its very core, ideas of leadership is being able to work with your members equally in order for the team to function as one. As an introvert, you have the unique ability of reading what your team's strengths and weaknesses are. In doing so, you would be able to delegate the task intelligently. Since you're also a great listener, you would be able to sympathize with their needs quite easily. Observational skills provide you with the ability to give advice that no one else might have thought of. Simple things, really, but they make all the difference. A great artist. For the most part, many introverts are actually a bit more artistically inclined when compared to others. They tend to see things differently, sometimes in a deeper and more thoughtful manner. As they are not always the best when it comes to vocalizing these things, many introverted people turn to art as a medium for expression. Painting, sketching, music, theater, and even writing are just a few of the most common choices for them. It's all about finding what you are most comfortable with and developing what you're most passionate about. Effective communication skill. This may seem surprising, but many introverts actually possess the potential of being a good speaker, and this is due to certain characteristics they inherently possess. Being a good listener is one of those characteristics. If you are used to listening to people, then you are aware of the subjects that compel them to really pay attention. You are more capable of adjusting the formality, tone, and level of words you need to use in order to get your point across. If good speakers catch their audience's attention with their words, the best speakers catch attention with their wit. Think of this as an opportunity to stretch your creative muscles and create speeches based on your observation of people. Remember that one way of connecting effectively with people is by finding common ground with them. As an introvert, this is also among your many talents, the ability to sympathize with whoever you may be conversing with. Proper judgment. It should be clear to you by now that your ultimate weapon is your mind. It could go places even if your body physically could not. One thing it does is collectively process data and form judgments. If you are an introvert, it is not easy for you to hastily settle on a final decision. Unlike extroverts who usually judge objectively, you regard information subjectively. You don't just use evidence to rush into conclusions. You use other factors to help you analyze situations carefully, such as external forces or abnormalities in the environment. You believe solving a case is not just for the sake of settling things in the present, but it can also be used to derive solutions for the future. Your way of judging can both be disadvantageous and advantageous. Always use your critical thinking when finalizing decisions. Chapter 8. The Role of Introverts in Society. The world is not a stage where audiences can see only the performers. It is an entire production, a whole crew that puts everything together. Each one puts in an equal amount of effort in order to create the best production possible. In the same manner, the world is not only comprised of extroverts, the people who would often appear on stage. The crew is also comprised of introverts who help keep things running even while they stay back from the limelight. After all, most introverts are happier simply doing their thing in the backstage. So, what roles would apply to introverts in our society? Here are a few examples. Provides balance. Where there are storytellers, there would also be listeners. Introverts provide a much-needed balance by simply being themselves. Introverts are everywhere in our society, and wherever they may be placed, they bring their strengths along with them. These are the people who observe quietly and apply what they have learned accordingly. The people with a keen eye for detail, who highlight the things we may have missed. Without them, the balance of energies between people will not exist, and we can argue that society may not even function as it should. Can you imagine a world where there are only extroverted people? A new way of looking at things. As established earlier, introverts tend to have a deeper perspective on the things that happen around them. The society benefits in many ways from this, especially when it comes to finding solutions for problems that might seem challenging at first. To find the best answer to a riddle, two differing opinions need to be considered. The common answer and the other that's a little out of the box. Without people who are capable of creative thought, can there really be any progress? This is one of the reasons why people with unique perspectives are important to the whole. Famous introverts. Albert Einstein and Sir Isaac Newton, two of the most important contributors to the field of science, were actually introverts. In politics, you have the former President of the United States, Barack Obama, who was also the first African American president in the United States. Hillary Clinton, a former First Lady of the U.S., is also an introvert. Mark Zuckerberg, who is the founder and current CEO of one of the most famous social networking sites, and Bill Gates, the philanthropist who founded Microsoft, are both introverts who have made a huge impact on today's modern society. The famous Michael Jordan is one of the greatest introvert athletes who have inspired many basketball players. The creator of the wizarding world of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, is also an introvert. There are even celebrities who happen to be introverts as well. To name a few, there is Emma Watson, Johnny Depp, Lady Gaga, Christina Aguilera, Audrey Hepburn, and Zayn Malik. Imagine the courage all of them had to take to get used to cameras and paparazzi. Conclusion. Introvert personality is a personality type that covers a range of characteristics distinct from those of the other types. There are signs that may indicate that you are an introvert, such as the desire to be alone, being a keen observer, having a small circle of friends, being reserved, and more. If you identify yourself as an introvert, you need to be aware of the misconceptions about introversion in order to prevent yourself from being misled by such ideas. This personality type can be further divided into 4 specific categories, namely social, thinking, anxious, and restrained introvert. It is important to know which type you are, as each possesses different sets of introvert traits. Same as any other personality, introversion has both weak and strong points. The best way to deal with them is to accept both points. That way, you can manage to overcome your weaknesses as an introvert and utilize your strengths for the greater good. Improvement is something you should always seek from your personality. Introversion has a lot to offer. At first, you might find it hard to see your role in a society largely comprised of extroverts, but try to seek for it anyway. Explore the society despite the overwhelming amounts of different people you may meet along the way. Challenge yourself to adapt to that kind of setting, and one day you will see your purpose. You will find out that introverts are more important to society than you think. Go out there and discover it yourself. This has been Introvert, The Quiet Power in a World of Noise. Written by Rita Chester. Narrated by Kelly McGee. Copyright 2017 by Rita Chester. Production copyright 2017 by Rita Chester.